Money. It's the number one thing couples fight about. But what if I told you those fights aren't actually about the money at all? We're going to unpack the real reason why financial conversations can get so, well, explosive, and how you can actually start to solve them for good.
See, it almost always kicks off with an imbalance. One person earns more, the other earns less. And if you don't talk about it, that gap, it just gets filled with all these unspoken expectations, power struggles, and eventually a whole lot of resentment. Because it's never really just about the numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about feeling valued, feeling respected, and feeling like you're actually on the same team.
So let's look at this from the higher earner side for a second. This is Sarah's reality. She loves her partner, of course, but man, she is just exhausted. She pays for pretty much everything, and she's carrying all the mental weight of their financial future. But the minute she tries to bring up a budget, suddenly she's the bad guy, the one who's no fun. It's this classic provider trap. You think you're building a partnership, but somehow you end up feeling like a parent.
And then you've got the other side of the coin with Mark. Now, you might think he's got it easy, but his day-to-day is just this constant hum of financial anxiety. He's pouring this huge chunk of his smaller income into their shared life, which leaves him with almost nothing for himself. And it's not just about being broke, it's about that feeling of losing your independence, feeling guilty for just buying a coffee, and starting to worry that your worth is tied to your paycheck.
And listen, this kind of tension, it's not just for romantic partners. As this person from a Reddit discussion pointed out, the second you reveal you're doing okay financially, the whole dynamic with your family can change, like, overnight. A simple no to a loan can suddenly stir up all this drama and resentment that you just never saw coming. So, you've got resentment between couples, you've got tension with family. It all feels like it's about money, right? But what if the money is just a symptom? What if the real problem here is something much deeper? Something that, honestly, we all kind of struggle to define and defend.
Right? What's the common thread here? What connects Sarah's burnout and Mark's guilt and all that family loan drama? Well, the answer is a lack of clear, communicated, and respected boundaries. And this is the part that can be a real game changer. Boundaries are not walls you build to push people away. Think of them more like a life-enhancing system that you install to protect yourself. They're what give you the power to decide how you want to be treated and to honor your own needs and your own values.
So what do boundaries actually do for us? Well, they help define who we are, they protect our energy, and they keep us on track with our own purpose in life. It's not about controlling anyone else. It's all about taking ownership of your life and making choices that are genuinely right for you. Okay, to make this feel a little less abstract and more concrete, it really helps to break boundaries down into a few key categories. This gives us a really practical framework we can actually work with. But before we dive into those, just a quick reminder. Setting boundaries is a vital, healthy part of every single relationship you have. There's this myth that good relationships are supposed to be easy. The reality, they take consistent work, and boundaries are a huge, huge part of that work. Okay, so here are the 4 big ones. You've got your physical boundaries, your emotional ones, and of course, digital ones. But for this explainer, we're really going to zero in on that 4th one, financial boundaries. This is your fundamental right to decide how you earn and spend your money, whether you share account info, and what financial limits make you feel safe and respected.
Knowing what your boundaries are is step 1. That's huge. But the real challenge? Actually, voicing them. So how do you communicate your financial lines without, starting World War III?
All right, here's some fantastic, really actionable advice. First, just be direct. You don't need to write a 10-page essay to justify your feelings. A simple, "I'm not able to lend money right now," is enough. And this next one is huge. Use I statements. It frames it from your perspective without placing blame. So it's, "I feel stressed when our spending goes over budget," not, "You always overspend." And you have to remember this. You are responsible for communicating your boundary respectfully. You are not responsible for how they react. And finally, try to make this an ongoing, calm conversation, not some big crisis intervention. Okay, that's all great for saying no to a loan. But what about the daily grind? The shared bills in a relationship where there's that income gap? How do you actually turn these communication tips into a financial system that feels fair to both of you?
Well, one really effective method is the proportional income split. The biggest pro here is that it's fair based on what each person actually earns, instead of some rigid 50-50 split that can totally cripple the lower earner. It also really encourages financial transparency. The only potential con: if you don't communicate about it openly, it can still create those power imbalances or feelings of control. So the key is to see this as a tool for fairness, not a weapon. So,
You've done the work. You've figured out your boundaries, you've communicated them clearly, you've even proposed a fair system. But what if the other person just doesn't respect them? Let's talk about why this is so incredibly hard and what to do when your lines get crossed.
First things first, let's just normalize the anxiety here. If setting boundaries feels scary, you are not alone. We're wired to fear rejection. Most of us hate confrontation, and we often feel this deep guilt for simply putting our own needs first. These feelings are completely normal barriers.
And sometimes that pushback you get is because of something called crab mentality. It's such a powerful metaphor. Imagine a bucket of crabs. Anytime one tries to climb out, the others pull it back down. People in our lives can sometimes do that too. They might try to diminish our success because of their own insecurity. Recognizing this helps you see that their reaction, it's often not about you, it's about them.
So what do you do when a boundary is actually crossed? The first, most crucial step is to ask yourself, is this relationship a safe one? If the answer is yes, then you can have a conversation. Use those I statements, talk about what happened, and figure out how to avoid it in the future. But if you feel unsafe, or if your boundaries are just constantly being ignored, your number one priority is your safety. You have every right to be firm, to document what's happening, and to reach out to a trusted friend or a professional for support.
At the end of the day, money issues in our relationships are rarely just about the money. They're about communication, they're about respect, and they're about safety. They are about boundaries. Building a healthy relationship isn't magic. It takes consistent work. So the real question to leave you with is this. Are you willing to do the work to build yours on a foundation of clear and respected boundaries?